Good morning, my cozy friends. I hope you've all had a fine week, and as for my fellow Americans out there, I hope you had a at least relatively decent Thanksgiving that wasn't too impeded by the oppression of the state and the politicians and so on and so forth in the madness which they have consumed us with. But anyways, so I've been kind of in a little bit of a slump the last few days or so, and I've been spending a lot of time just laying in bed. This is something I've done before in the past, but in any case, generally when I do this, I usually accompany it with large YouTube playlists just playing constantly because it sort of just soothes me and helps sort of take me out of the elements a little bit that I'm in. And so that's what I was doing, and as I went to go, pull up another playlist, after I was checking my phone for something else, went to go pull up another playlist on my phone, I had a video recommended to me about microwaves from a channel called Technology Connections, which I had never looked at this channel before, and so I decided, you know what, that sounds interesting, so I started to watch some of this microwave video. It was pretty good. Alright, boom, I punched in the playlist, the automatically YouTube-generated playlist for that channel, put it on, and basically got back to business of laying around and moping as I had been doing previously. So, as I was going through this playlist, I pulled up one of the older videos on this channel, and one of these older videos was to do with the phonograph, which I do believe is how you pronounce that word, and so that's how I'm going to pronounce it, the phonograph. And once again, as the original microwave video had piqued my interest, so did this video. And in fact, there was actually a few videos that this channel had done, and it appeared to be the first videos they ever made that were all to do with audio recording technology in the early 1900s in that time period. And so I very, intriguedly watched this video about the phonograph and how the records were made, or they weren't really records at first. They looked like the inside of a paper towel, like a roll, but it had sound waves etched on it. It was very interesting. It was a very interesting video. And the example that this gentleman had in his video was, I believe it was called The Mouse and the Clock. And so after watching the video, I actually put off the playlist, and I went to go see if there was a higher quality rendition of this musical piece on YouTube. And what I came to find was, in fact, there was quite a bit of archived phonograph music on YouTube. In fact, not even just music, but there was speeches, there was vaudeville comedy, there was a number of things. And I thought to myself, wow, this is very, very interesting. It was sort of like, I had never went, there's times in the past where you might look up what's the oldest audio, and they have some stuff from 10,000 years ago that was scratched into rock, and they found out how to make it into sound, stuff like that, old languages, things like that. But somehow or another, I had never found this little slice of phonograph music, speeches. They had one of the first ones that came up was a speech by Theodore Roosevelt, which was, you go listen to that, and had 300 views. Nobody ever really cared. Nobody cares about the phonograph of Theodore Roosevelt, but I thought that was pretty nifty. I thought that was pretty interesting, and so I sat there and I listened through phonographic records, and it was sort of this this burst of old American culture, at least early 20th century, late 19th century. You might have seen some of those videos that have gone viral a couple of times of people recording in 1920s New York, recording and talking to people, and those things go viral. They get millions of views and things like that, but the music those people were listening to, I guess, yeah, and of course it's not very high quality. It's you have to lend a little bit of you have to give it a little leniency in that department, since it was the first music recorded like that. But I'm sitting there listening to man, all very low views. Some of it was actually archived, where it would be on Spotify and things like that. They had this 1960 pressing that was, re-released in 2014, and that was in YouTube's audio database. But a lot of this was just purely by hobbyists that had put this out, and and they had accumulated some views over time, but still none of it was very, interesting to people, I guess. But to me, it was very interesting. I sat there and I listened to it, and I enjoyed it very much. It made me think to myself, there's been a lot of media, even in that time frame, from the very beginning of phonographs. I mean, there was probably I haven't looked up any of the specific figures, but I would imagine that there's been a lot of that original material that's just since been lost. And so, and without these hobbyists, I mean, like I said, that's a majority of these uploads you find are by hobbyists. So without people like this, a lot of this kind of falls by the wayside. It's not the hottest, most interesting thing. There's something new and more interesting, and it's just sort of like, as people get older and things fade out, a lot of it, you just kind of assume, oh, that record's going to be around. Oh, this is going to be around. And then now we're at this point now where everything's become so digital. Everything's so digital and streaming, and people are sort of foregoing the physical media because, oh, well, why? Who cares about the physical media? Why keep around a big old shelf? I know my grandmother, she still has a whole bookshelf of these old VHS tapes, things like that, which perhaps I'll have to go and help. Maybe I could help get some of that copied to not a digital like streaming format necessarily, but even to some more optimized format for safekeeping. But in any case, I am going off a little bit here. But I noticed when I went to go and get my new computer built. I'm working on building a new computer. I've had the computer I'm using now since 2013. And even at this time, I put an optical drive into this computer 7 years ago, and people told me that's pretty crazy. Why are you still getting an optical drive? That's out of that's in this new one. It doesn't even have an option when I was putting the parts together. I'm sure I could probably still get one, or maybe even an external burner or whatever. But I'm getting DVD bundles for $1 for a whole pack because it's just sort of considered to be obsolete at this point. Why who's still out here burning DVDs and everything like that? But I do believe that as we sort of go into this new, more digital age, and we're already seeing music getting taken down for being too offensive. There's movies like Gone with the Wind that are being taken down for just being too offensive to modern sensibilities. I think we're sort of in a period of time right now where a lot of people should kind of maybe perk their ears up a little bit about that. And even if there's nothing maybe we could necessarily do grassroots to sort of, we might not be able to go and say, hey, Disney, go put that movie back up. Hey, Spotify, go put that song back up. They might just say, oh, this is our terms of service. No dice. But with that being the atmosphere in which we live right now, I think that there's a lot of good things out there. Old television programs, old movies, old music that most people just sort of, it doesn't even cross their mind on an average day that they should even give a crap about any of that stuff because, there's, who wants to be the guy that's sit around, and archive a bunch of old stuff. I mean, I have books and stuff that I've had, that I've, saved copies of that are hard to come by nowadays, and I have a lot of stuff that just sits around on drives, and it kind of just like, you probably touch it maybe once every few years if you think about it, So a lot of people are like, oh, why would I waste my time and put this and that, Why would I put the effort in to really care that much? But I think that it's a good idea, and I think people should think about it because, nowadays, with streaming services and so much of like this whole no more owning, but instead renting, quote-unquote, culture, which is pushed from the top down on people to sort of, I feel like there might be some nefarious reasoning behind that, the whole you don't own, you just rent, and you just pay for the... I feel like people should think about saving some of this stuff that's out here that's still, relatively easy enough to find, because in 5 years from now, who knows how much further down that path we might be of the non-physical media, and how many lovely phonographic musical numbers and comedy numbers that might be lost to time if they're not saved. How many, just something to think about. I guess it's just what occurred to me as I was going through this. So with that being said, just think about it. Just think about saving some, getting some physical copies of books and media, because I think it's a good idea and you should do it. So with that being said, I apologize that I haven't been around lately. I'm going to try to get back into things, but just think about it. Keep it in mind. All right, until next time, my friends. Take care. Much love.